awesome home inspector. His name is Luther Thomas, and he is the owner of his own company, Jardyn Homes LLC. And we're gonna go ahead and bring Luther on here.
Hi, good
How
evening,
are
everyone.
you?
Fantastic.
Great, Luther. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, about your company, how long you've been in the business, and your background, really?
Sure. So I've been in the real estate industry a little bit over 17 years as a whole. A little bit of background as a limited license appraiser as well. I went into the home inspection side just to kind of help people out. My first home, I didn't have a home inspection, and I wish I had. um, just some of the things I've done over the years. I'm a licensed residential builder as well, so it's kind of
Mhm.
helped out, so I can kind of help guide my clients as well in the home buying process and pointing out things that they need to know about the home to help them make an educated decision.
Awesome. So let me ask you, when did you first buy your first home? Like what? How long ago was that? When you were the buyer?
I was 23 years old. That was my first home.
25.
Yes, and I bought it from a relative, and
Mm-hmm.
the relative didn't tell me everything.
Right. We see that a lot in the business.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, um, tell us a little bit more about your journey into um being a realtor in home inspecting.
Okay, so my journey started off in 2005. I took my real estate classes, and if anyone's familiar with it, the market shortly crashed thereafter, and tried to kind of diversify. So I started taking appraisal classes as well, and then the market did actually crash. So
Mm.
I kind of pulled back a little bit on the appraisal side, and I stuck with the market of selling homes as an agent. I did that part time up until about 2012.
Mm.
And then I decided to go into the mortgage side of the business. So I kind of want to be well diverse overall in the industry. The mortgage side, it helped me out with my clients as an agent because I was able to help educate them in the buying process as far as the mortgage side. And for a moment, rates started to change, and I said, well, "Hey, I still like real estate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for a way to help people in different ways in the real estate market." And in 2018, I started my journey as a home inspector as well. Then 2021, I started my journey as a licensed builder.
Mm.
The whole thing was just to never stop educating myself so I can be that more sufficient for my clients.
I think that's a really cool journey because there's so many different aspects of real estate. And you've seen three, or you've been a part of three of them.
Four.
Four.
Yes.
Goodness, Luther. What
Yes.
don't you do in real estate?
I'm trying to work on that.
Look,
I'm working
no,
on that.
that I think that's really good too because you're well rounded and well educated in so many different areas that you can give. You have different insight and you know exactly what people look for, what people need to know, and how people need to be educated. And I think that's a really good quality when you're looking for a home inspector. You want to make sure people have that background. So I think that's really great, especially because I want to get into other things outside of being a realtor as well. Um, so can you tell us what's the importance of a home inspection?
Well, so a home inspection, number one, it's a very emotional process. When you go out to see that house, you're going to see what you want to see.
Yeah.
It's, yeah, it's the thing. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So I'm kind of like a second eye for you as a home inspector.
Yeah.
Um, I'm going to help point out things that you may not have seen the first time you went and saw the house and fell in love with it. And some things you may have seen it and didn't know what to look out for as a red flag. Okay.
Yeah. And what does those inspections cover?
So we're going to cover the main components of the house, things like the roof, sidewalks, driveway, garage, the basement, even in the attic, the place a lot of people don't like to journey into.
Yeah.
The good news about home inspections, even if you have like a finished basement,
Mhm.
can't see like the walls. We're going to look for signs of hidden damage, hidden water leaks. We look for the water stains. We look for the watermarks along the baseboards. The things you just may not catch with the naked eye as a regular consumer.
So tell me, because when I first started off, you taught me a lot about what to look for. So
Yeah.
tell me, like the water stains. Sometimes people will overlook those type of things. What does a water stain look like? A fresh water stain versus a older water stain.
Typically, a water stain. My main thing is when I go into the basement, I look for the floor drain. Reason
Mm,
being, water always tries to find its way towards the drain. And that's where you can tell if there's a profusely leaking wall. Um, you look at the walls. Now, the water stain color is usually going to be like a whitish color when it's shown on the floor.
okay.
However, on the walls, typically it shows up as a brownish color. So those are some of the things you can kind of look for: the white water stains, and if it's running towards the drain. Um, that will also tell me if the basement floor is properly pitched as well. Because if I see a water stain and it's coming out of the wall but not making its way to the drain, that also may mean that there's not enough of a pitch in the basement, which means if you do get water, there'd be a possible pooling issue.
And you use pitch a lot. Can you tell us what pitch is? Like
Yes,
you see me do it.
absolutely. So a pitch basically is an angle. So pitching, you should have a pitch on your basement floor, wherever the drain is at. Your pitch should be flowing upward from the drain.
Okay.
Um, Pitching also comes in handy knowing what's called the grading of a house. So the grading of a house is where the land meets the exterior walls of your house, the foundation walls. That type of pitch, you want to go the opposite way. You want to be moving away from the home. So you should have a higher pitch at the base of the home
Hmm.
and away from the house. You should have a pitch where the water, when it comes down the side of the house, it rolls off away from the foundation walls.
And that's to stop. Listen, you taught me so much, but that's to stop the water from coming into the basement. So when we're looking
Correct.
in the drain, we want it to come this way, and when we're outside, we want it to go this way.
Absolutely. You got it.
Hello. So, excuse me. Um, just talking about what you just covered. We
Mhm.
went from the outside to well, we were in the basement to the outside, the garage. Can you tell us the process in which you start from start to finish? Like, do you do the exterior first, the interior? Like, how do you? What's your process?
Honestly, it depends on the weather. You know, Michigan is kind of
Okay.
funny. So if it's a very rainy day, I'll look around outside and maybe start inside, hoping that the rain will subside a little bit. Also, because if it's raining, that's a true storyteller of if there's water coming in the house. So if there is
Mm,
rain, I want to get in as fast as possible while it's raining so I can see if there's any leaks.
okay.
Aside from that, I start the process before I even get out the house. When I pull up to the house, I'm looking at the roof, I'm looking at the gutters, looking at the sidewalk. Um, that's my first thing. I'm looking at the porch to see if there's any issues.
Okay.
And typically, if it's a nice day, I'll start outside and then work my way inside. So I would start with the sidewalk driveway, then go to the front porch, go to the backyard, check out the driveway in the backyard as well. And then I'm looking at the grading of the house. And then I'll take a step back and look at the roof. I don't go on the roof too often. You just don't have
Okay.
to nowadays with technology. I do keep a pair of binoculars. And, you know, we have Zoom on our phones for cameras. So that helps out. Some of the roofs are pretty tall. So I may have to walk a quarter way up the block just to see a roof, but I will check that out. When it comes to the roofing, when I do step back, I'm looking for lifted shingles, missing shingles.
Okay.
Um, Sometimes you'll have shingles that are halfway on, halfway off. I'm looking for drip edging on the shingles as well. If a roof looks too old, I'll note that, hey, this roof looks like it may be at the end of its lifespan.
Mm-hmm.
Um, at that point, if roof does look like it's at its nearing its lifespan, when I go inside, I'm looking at the ceilings that are directly beneath the roof. So if it's a two-story house, I'm looking at the ceilings upstairs. I'm looking for water stains to see if there's signs of leaks. Those stains are typically brown. So you'll see those stains. And when you look at those things also, you want to see if there's any chafing. If it looks soft, I may even stick a finger up there to see if it's soft. That lets
Mm-hmm.
me know that it's something that's going on right now and not something that was repaired and the ceiling just wasn't refinished. So those are the things I do as far as when it comes to roof and interior, exterior at the same time. They go hand in hand with the roof.
Okay. And so tell me, where are the clients at this point? Are we are the
So
clients with you, or how does that
great,
work?
great question. Great question. So typically, the client does not have to come until we do a final walkthrough. And what that means is I typically show up at the house 2 to 3 hours earlier to do the
Okay.
actual inspection. This is the best way to do an inspection because it allows the home inspector to concentrate and focus, and it doesn't draw out the process. Naturally, if you're a client, if you were actually going through what we would through an inspection, you're going to have a million questions and will just slow down the process and it may cause the inspector to miss something. So that's the best way to do it. And then we go over all the details and then you get a report. That report may be done at the time of inspection. If there's more details that have to go into it. Typically, turnaround time was within 24 hours from the time of the walkthrough. So, to answer the question in the short, the client comes at the end of the actual inspection.
Okay, so like the last hour, and then we do that walkthrough, and then that's where we go into more detail.
Correct.
Okay, and we do have a question, Luther. Hi, hello, Facebook user. Are chimneys included as part of the roof inspection?
Yes. So, when it comes to chimneys, most inspectors, we're going to look at the exterior portion. We're
Hmm.
going to look to see if they're what are called pop brick facing. We're going to look for stair step cracks, and if there's bricks or center blocks chimney. Um, this could be signs of possible moisture in the chimney. So if you have pop surfaces and cracks, um, it's not unlikely that a chimney can be struck by lightning as well. And sometimes,
Oh,
yeah, I've seen that where it looked like a chimney was struck by lightning, and over 2/3 of the chimney was had completely fallen off the house.
oh my
So,
goodness.
yeah, it happens, um, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But we're going to look at that. We look at the cap of the chimney. Um, Most houses, you'll see a steel cap on the top of it. That's just to help prevent birds and things from coming inside. Some chimneys or people you can look up and you'll see, hey, there's no grate up there, but sometimes they're inside the chimney. Now, inside wise, we're going to check to see if the dampers are properly functioning. That is very, very important when it comes to the chimney. If you have a gas burning or a wood burning
Uh-huh.
chimney, it has to be ventilated. If not, there's a high chance of carbon monoxide poisoning.
Yeah.
So, in a lot of older homes, it's I've seen some that work. I've seen them completely missing, and I'm referring them as the dampers. That damper has to be able to at least be in an open position so that fumes can go out. If you have one that is rusted shut or broken, um, you would rather be broken in an open position. That way the fumes can go out.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Now, however, we will say it's kind of like buying a used car. A chimney have it clean. It's like a used car. You want to have an oil change because you don't know the history of it.
Yeah.
Clean as soon as possible to prevent chimney fires.
Well, that actually brings me to my question,
Yeah.
and that is, like you said, you would want to have these things checked, just like you would a car or the chimney. So when there are things that need to be further inspected, how do you go about that in the inspection process?
Well, I'll let the client know. So
Excuse me.
everyone has a specialty for the most part. When
Okay.
it comes to chimney, there's a chimney specialist. They can come out and tell you, hey, this is what's wrong. They can repair the damper for you. They'll say, hey, based upon the soot that's in the chimney liner, it needs to be clean, and they'll tell you how often it needs to be cleaned. The home inspector is pretty much going to give you guidance on that. If there's electrical things, we'll say, hey, this is what's wrong, but you may want to consult a licensed electrician. Same thing when it comes to the plumbing. Hey, this is what I see, but you may want to consult a licensed plumber.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when you go anywhere past what the inspector is showing you, it's always good to have someone that's professional in that particular. It's no different than going to a podiatrist as opposed to a regular doctor. You want a specialist for that particular thing, you go to a specialist for that particular unit.
Okay. There you have it, guys. Go to that specialist. So we have a comment. Oh, question from Jaleisha. Hi, Jaleisha. How much does an inspection usually cost?
Great question. Great question. So it really depends on, I can't quote any other inspectors, but normally depends on the size of the home.
Okay.
Most inspectors, they have a base price based upon the average home, which is usually at least a two-bedroom. And from there, it goes up based upon number of bedrooms, number of bathrooms. There's other things that are concerned that are not typical in a house. It may be a sump pump. It may be two garages. It may be a garage
Yeah.
and an outbuilding. So usually if there's extra amenities that have to be checked,
Mhm.
that's factored into the cost. Did that help?
I mean, yeah.
Okay.
She might comment and say yes because she did. Good question about pitching.
Yeah.
I didn't put
Yeah.
that up
So
there.
yeah.
Yeah.
So in a nutshell, there's usually a base price for the average home, and then the bigger the home, typically the more the inspection costs.
Okay. Bigger the home, more the inspection, more
Yes.
for the inspection.
Correct.
I do have some questions that because we had people put questions on my page or in the group, and there's a question: what does the phrase "bring up to code" mean?
So typically, in every state, there are set codes and guidelines. Those codes are what are called normal building guidelines,
Uh,
and those are the state codes. And then there's what's called international codes. So that means that this is a code that internationally it's acceptable in the building trade.
mm,
So, for example, if you have some electrical outlets that are supposed to be grounded and they're not, and someone said it needs to be brought up to code, that means
mm,
if it's it needs to be brought to the national code, which means that it needs to be grounded if it's not a um, three-prong outlet. So if it's a three-prong outlet and it's not grounded, bringing it up to code would mean changing it back over to a two-prong outlet or running ground wire to that actual outlet.
mm,
Same thing. So another example would be plumbing. If you have some plumbing and the pipes look like this instead of like this, straight, nice and neat,
yeah.
hanging, supported, that would be considered something that's not at the code. So if they say bring it up to code, they're basically saying whatever the guidelines are for that particular state, sometimes internationally, um, what are the guidelines for that actual fixture or that unit?
And Luther, you are going, and I appreciate how in detail that you're going in your answers. I appreciate it. I'm sure everybody does as well. Jaleisha said, yes, thanks. I'm going to show that to your answer. Yes, thanks. Thanks, Jaleisha. Another question we have: do nearby trees or plants cause problems later? Like, I would
Uh,
assume that you're talking about, anything.
all of me wants to say absolutely, but the answer is not, doesn't typically mean always yes. But I can say if you have a tree that is planted too close to the foundation walls,
Mm-hmm.
because of the tree roots, there's a possibility those tree roots could grow towards the foundation walls and push the foundation walls. What happens when the foundation walls are pushed by tree roots? It causes a line or crack in the foundation walls. That would be one reason for your
Oh,
walls
wow.
leaking. Yes.
Yikes.
Uh, and to speak on that, trees too close to the house. Also, you don't want the tree limbs hanging over the roof of the house. So typically, if it's too close to the house, 9 times out of 10, the tree limbs are hanging over the house.
Mm-hmm.
The reason you don't want tree limbs hanging over the roof is because after it rains or snows, the roof won't properly dry out. So you'll see deterioration start to occur faster because the roof is not drying out from the sun like it's supposed to. And
Okay.
sometimes you even see moss growing, meaning that there's moisture in that area of the roof.
Is there a way that that could be treated? The moss part.
Um, I would say the best way to treat it is to go to the root of the cause, and that would be to either
Limbs.
get rid of the tree or to cut the tree limbs back. Now, as far as
Okay.
the moss on the roof, if it's a fairly new roof, yes, they do make chemical agents that you can spray on
Okay.
the roof that would help subside that.
Okay. And oh, well, that question was answered, and it was just, what does water damage look like on the inside of the house? Or what does the water damage like outside of the house?
Uh,
I've
so,
seen that.
yes, that's a good question.
Yeah.
With water damage on an exterior, let's say it's the driveway. Sometimes, if you have a driveway, once again, we're talking about the pitch. If you see a pitch going towards the foundation, sometimes that comes from actual water damage. Um, and there's no real easy way around that. If you have a house where there's no gutters on that side where the driveway is, the
Hmm.
water has nowhere to go but downward.
But
Uh, Water is a very, very powerful substance. And what I mean by that, that water, if it gets behind between the foundation walls and the driveway, if water comes in behind it too much, the
okay.
ground starts to get soft over the years. And so it starts to pitch more and more towards the house. Um, the best way to fix a pitch on a driveway that has a negative slope is to either seal against the house with some caulking and or some concrete,
Hmm.
or have the driveway repoured. Unfortunately,
Have the drive. Say that last part. Have the driveway. What was it?
repoured, a new driveway put in.
Goodness gracious.
Yes. So
So houses are.
yeah. So um, if you go to a house and you look at the driveway
Mm-hmm.
where the side of the house where the driveway is, you can almost tell before I even go in the house if I see signs of old tar or concrete that's kind of chipped up. I'm definitely going to be looking for signs of water in the basement because that's telling me that someone at some point had to go back and tar and or put concrete there to help keep water out of the basement. It's a good way to help, um, but it just won't ultimately fix the problem. The ultimate fix would be you would probably have to have that driveway repoured so there's a positive pitch as opposed to a negative slope going towards the foundation. Um,
Sorry.
right.
And tell me a little bit. You went back. We went back to the basement just now. So,
Okay.
and you were talking about the foundation. So, can you tell me a little bit more about horizontal, like the cracks um
Yes.
in the basements with bricks? Like, This
Yes,
type of okay.
yes, I know exactly where you're going. So,
Yeah.
in older homes, a lateral crack is common.
That's
It's
hmm
very common. However, what's not common is if you have a lateral crack where it meets and the crack has a offset. That means there's movement. A crack that's crack to crack, side to side, it's
hmm
not as bad. Typically, you'll see that if there has been some type of water, you may see where someone put some concrete and or a type of epoxy or something over it to keep water out. But if you see, say this is two where two cracks meet, if you see it where the wall is offset like that, um, I would say that's a red flag. I would note it in the report, and I
hmm
would let the client know to if they decide to move forward with the home to monitor the crack for future movement and leaks. Now, same time, horizontal cracks. Horizontal cracks. If you see a horizontal crack and it looks like that, can you see
hmm
that? There's a gap.
Yeah.
If there's a gapping in it that's abnormal from what the rest of the gaps mortar lines look like, um, usually you'll see someone try to repair it, or you'll see the actual crack. If you see that crack going down the line, that's a red flag that there's some movement. Now, if you see that
hmm
crack, if you look at it from a side view, if you see the wall and it's starting to bow, that's definitely a red flag. That means that at some point there's either if there aren't any trees over there, that water is coming down the side of the house so much, and the weight of the land is pushing on the walls. In that situation, you would typically have to have the walls either braced and or cranked in. The way the crank works is they will put a plate on the
hmm
inside of the interior wall and a steel rod that goes outside. On the opposite end of the steel rod, they'll put another plate and then they crank it in, and that pulls the wall back into its normal place.
I mean, at least there's solutions to these problems. You don't have to like bulldoze your house or
Yeah, correct.
anything like that. I mean, sometimes I'm a little drastic, and I
Yeah,
think, all right, be gone with the whole house. But there's definitely solutions.
yes,
And yeah,
yeah. It's just a matter of once again, beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
yep,
You as the home buyer, how much work you're willing to put in, to
yep.
enjoy the beauty of your new home.
Now let me ask you this: after the process, I'm sorry, I'm in a spinny chair, and I feel like I
Okay,
can just go ahead and go all around. But after the process and after you've done the home inspection, how open are you if clients have questions? How's the communication? Does it stop there, or are you there to answer questions throughout the process? How does that work?
great question. So, my ending line before I leave the client at the house, I tell them I'm going to send them the actual report. It's typically anywhere from 20 to 35 pages long. Um,
Wow,
that seems like a lot, and that's usually the reaction
you're
I.
wow.
However, um, there's a summary section that's only 2 to 3 pages long, roughly, at the end of the report. So that section usually are the things that were flagged or noted. The marginal section is usually something that's just pointed out but not actually broken or cracked. That would be in the actual damage section. Broken or cracked, it would be actually damaged. So there's a summary of the things that are just kind of noted as a checklist for you, and then there's a damage
Mhm.
section. So I tell the clients definitely, if nothing else, review that section. Also, I provide a link, an iCloud link, with every photo that I took of the home. And I tell them if they have any questions, once they receive the report, feel free to reach out to me.
Okay.
Sometimes usually I don't get a call, um, but if I do, I definitely take my clients' calls.
hmm
You know,
You might see me going a little bit. I'm actually trying to show one of those. Here it is. We have the final comments.
okay.
Remember I told you I was gonna try to pull it up.
Yes, fantastic.
Um, Let me see if I can do so. Well, I don't know if I want to try that right now, but I can possibly try it a little later or so. But okay, I don't want to get it too off track with that part. Um, hey, let me tell you, or let me ask you, what does termite damage look like? That's something that I kept get, people kept asking me about termite damage.
Okay, so termite damage. Once again, that's something that's a specialty to determine if it's
Mm,
termite damage um, or carpenter ants. So with wood, termites usually um, are typically found in place where there's a moist area. So
okay.
usually find that like in attics. If you find it in walls, it's definitely usually towards an exterior wall, somewhere where there may be some type of moisture. Um, Basically, termites they feed on wet wood. Um, However, they may feed on dry wood. But termite damage, you'll see where there's like little holes in the wood. Um,
Mm,
Carpenter ants looks somewhat similar. And also on the exterior of a home, you'll get pest damage. I've seen this in a couple of houses where it's kind of hard to tell if it's termites or not,
mm-hmm.
but there's little holes, and that's usually a woodpecker. Woodpeckers,
Oh,
yes, I've seen woodpecker holes um, throughout the exterior. So
wow.
don't you see too much termite damage where it's eating up the wood outside. It's usually like in the walls of a house or something like that, or in the garage. You may see it around the sill plates, which is the bottom wood for the garage support. But yeah, that's what it usually looks like. It looks like something has been gnawing on the wood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And you just mentioned the garage. I know I switch back and forth a little bit.
you're fine.
Um, but when you say key things, it's like, oh, garage. So how important when you do the inspection, how important is the garage to the entire inspection?
Well, it's kind of twofold. So
Okay.
it's very, very important if it's a attached garage, which means the house is attached to the house. Because anything going with the garage could affect the structure of the actual house as well. But in a detached garage, the uprightness is one of the most important things. What I mean by that, if are the studs, if they're straight up and down, that's a good sign. I also look to see if a garage has a brace. So what a brace would be is when you have the studs
Mm-hmm.
straight up and down. Usually, when a garage is braced, there'll be a brace going across those studs. What that brace does is help to keep the studs from moving. So it braces the wood, so
Okay.
they can't shift because you have a cross beam that's going this way across the two studs, and it usually goes from one half of the garage to the from the top to the bottom. Um,
I've seen that. I know exactly what you're talking about.
yeah, it,
I've
anytime
seen.
you have a frame garage,
Mm-hmm.
frame garage meaning that it's made out of wood, it's a very very good idea to have it braced, whether it's new garage or old garage. But especially if it's older, if you see any slight movement, definitely brace it right away. And if you're in a position to do so, have it straightened up and then brace.
Okay. And I have a question,
Mhm.
and my question is about FHA inspections versus an inspection. I know that it's a different type of inspection. So can you tell me the difference between those two?
I'm sorry, repeat the question.
The difference between doing an inspection for a conventional loan and an inspection for an FHA loan.
Okay, great question. So, FHA, typically when you deal with the government, and I'm going to touch 2 points with that,
Okay.
FHA and VA loans. Those are government loans. The
Mm-hmm.
government's main two concerns, should I say, is safety and health. What I mean by that, safety would be something like broken glass, outlets that are not grounded that help prevent shock, trip
Mm-hmm.
hazards, things that you could possibly injure yourself or someone that is at your home can injure themselves on. Um, they look for health issues would be something like if a home was built before 1978, there's a possibility of lead-based paint. In that situation, it's not so much they want you to go in and remediate all the lead-based paint in the home, but they don't want to see any chipped and peeling paint on my home. And the reason being, kids will be kids, and
Yeah.
especially younger ones. Sometimes colored paint or any type of paint looks like candy. Um,
Mm.
that could be detrimental to a child's health
Yeah, definitely. So they're looking for health hazards, health
and safety
issues
hazards. Yes.
for FHA and VA loans.
Yes. So
So
another situation would consider like a safety issue would be like exposed wiring, um, outlet covers missing, where a kid could
right,
walk up, stick something in outside of the normal faceplate. Exposed wiring would be another issue that would be considered to be a safety concern.
and what about so you have the FHA and then the VA loans. So when you're doing a conventional loan, the inspection, of course, they're all for your knowledge, but what can you kind of get
Yeah. So
away with conventional?
for a conventional loan, you're not going to have that second set of eyes from the government loans. Um, on a conventional loan, it's pretty much, mm, I want to say as is. So that's why it's kind of really important that that you get a private inspection for a conventional loan, because you're not going to get that second set of eyes on someone going and saying, "Hey, this is what we found." Um, Conventional, for the most part, if the house is standing, um, somewhat livable, you can still get that conventional loan. And
Mm-hmm.
home inspection was basically going to be a great checklist for you of things to do, and or that you may want to say, "Hey, I'd really like to buy your home. However, there's a leak in the roof." Um, FHA, they would catch that, but a commission loan, they're just going to say, "Hey, the house is standing, looks fine to us. Here's your money, pay us."
Right, right, right. Well, we do have viewers here, so I want to know if you all have any questions for our home inspector and owner of Jardyn Homes LLC, Luther Thomas. If you do, please put them in the comment section. I'm gonna wait a little second
Mhm.
before we wrap it up. I really don't like to say that. I find myself saying it.
I'm
So,
sorry, you were breaking up a little bit there.
oh, I was breaking. Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, no, I was just saying I say a lot. I'm trying not to do so much. Oh, take questions on my in my text messages too.
Okay.
People don't plan. Okay, so I don't have any other comments coming in. But there is there anything that you want to say before we wrap up?
Yeah. So I would like to share this with potential home buyers. Um, just keep in mind, once again, one of my favorite go-tos is beauty is in the eye of the beholder. The home inspector is here to help show you things that you may not have seen, things you may not know what to look for. But it's not a warranty on the home. So um, most inspectors are not going to tell you, yes, you should or you should not buy this home. We're just going to show you things that need to be shown to you to help you make an educated decision on if you feel comfortable enough moving forward buying the home.
Okay, like that there at the bottom it says beauty is in the eye
I
of the
see that.
beholder. um, alrighty, well, Luther, I'm going to put your contact information up. Give me one second.
Okay.
And we have your contact information. So for anybody who's on, or anyone who needs to have their home inspected, Thomas is your guy. You can go ahead and get his information here. His cell phone and his email address is right here. I'm going to leave this up for a second. And Luther, I appreciate you so much for taking the time out to come onto our live question and answer session. Uh, Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love doing business with you because I'm so educated with everything, and I appreciate you very much for just taking the time out today.
Sure thing. Thanks for having me, and I'll see you in the field.
You
Great.
surely will. Thank you. Everybody, I'm so excited that you guys were here to talk to us and get these answers, these questions answered by Luther Thomas. Again, I will put this information up on the recap, the comments. I'll share his information all the time. You'll be seeing me post. So I appreciate all that. Before we leave, I'm going to ahead and let you know that I can get my home buy guide here. You can get my home buyer's guide. Just send me an email or a request. You can put it in the comment section. I also have a seller's book. You can do the same thing. You can text me, email me, and if you know anyone who needs to buy or sell, you can always have them email me as well. This is my contact information, and yes, I appreciate you all. Let me see here. Oh, Luther. Hey, we have another question really quick. I don't want to, since this is our question and answer session, let's let everybody get their questions answered. If you don't mind, is that okay?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. Our question: do galvanized pipes cause harm over time?
So, well, galvanized pipes, over time, they tend to rust. So there could be possible levels of rust in the water with galvanized pipes, but it doesn't necessarily mean that's always the issue. When you have a home that has sat too long, they have
Mm-hmm.
been vacant and the pipes haven't been ran, you typically see rust water come out of the lines. If you check with your local water department, the main suggestion would be no different than if you had a boil alert. You run the lines, let the water run for at least 5 minutes. It's always good to have a filter on your sinks, especially the kitchen sink when you're prepping food. Um, but harm wise, there's they may have some kits out there that can help you determine how much rust is in the line. Um, the only harm that it may also be would be convenience. If the rust builds up too much in the lines will provide very, very low water pressure. So if you're in a position to have those lines changed out, copper PEX is a good way to go if you want nice, fast running water.
Alrighty. Thanks. Glad you were still on with us. Alrighty. Thank you, Janice, for your question as well. Luke, I'm gonna go ahead and put the other screen back on, okay? Okay. So, oh, and look, there's the other one. So, I also post in the group home buying and selling tips on Facebook. So, if you want tips and expert advice, we have mortgage lenders, we have appraisers, home inspectors. We have a lot of people in this group, a lot of experts. We also have fellow buyers and sellers in this group who may need encouragement from people who've already been through the process. So please join the group. We would love to have you. If you have any questions, like I said, there are experts who can help you. So don't hesitate to join us there. And then also, yes, next week I am going to have buyers and sellers on with us. Buyers and sellers who have recently bought or sold a home. So that is going to be a treat because you get to not only talk to experts with in this question and this live question and answer session, you get to talk to people who've actually been through the process, who have had some of the same thoughts you may have had, some of the same questions, some of the same anxieties. So we're going to talk openly with our guests. Here is the live question and answer session I was just referring to, March 8th from 7 to 8 p.m. And if you missed the last session with Andrew Buck, Senior Loan Consultant, please click the link below. And if you are interested in hearing more, subscribe, share. It will be greatly appreciated. The way you move your body profile. Hypnotize me, girl, while I'm at me, I don't know now. You my favorite.